been in there. Whew. Hello and welcome to my channel! If you're new here, thanks for clicking. My name's Dominique and I'm a flight attendant based in Guam. I guess that it's time for my travel hibernation to be over as I have been recalled back to work. And I am ready to go. I'm ready to travel! Alright, so a lot of bad things happened in 2020. We know this. After being furloughed in 2020, I am so happy to say that I have been recalled back to work, if only temporarily. So today I have 10 tips for how to travel in 2021 from the perspective of a flight attendant. Ding! Now, of course, a lot of things have changed in the airline industry since the pandemic started, and a lot of things will continue to change, I'm sure. These are just tips that I thought of from my personal experience traveling so far. So let's get into it. So number 1, before you book your flight, consider what time of day the flight is scheduled for and try to book it during the off hours or during a flight that is less full. There are less popular flights at certain times of the day, and since the pandemic started, most airlines have eliminated their change fees. They're giving passengers the option to change flights without charging those fees. So if you don't feel comfortable with how full one flight is, you might have the option to change that flight to a different one. So it's something to consider if you have some flexibility. Number 2, download the airline's app. Once you pick your flight, download whatever airline you're flying on, download their app. Most major airlines have really great apps with a lot of good information on them. While flying this year, we want to be as safe as possible and take as many precautions as we can. Moving towards a more contactless experience as you're moving through the airport, having the app downloaded on your phone already, you can have your boarding pass on your phone, so when you get to security as well as the gate, all you need to do is just scan your phone. You don't have to mess with exchanging a physical boarding pass back and forth with the TSA agent and the gate agent and whoever else. You can just scan it, show them, and go. This allows you to touch less as you're moving through the airport. Airline apps also have a bunch of other information, everything from boarding times, your flight schedule. They send you push notifications and updates, any changes, the baggage claim information, so you know exactly where to go to pick up your bags. And you can also access the seating chart, which would come in handy for the very first tip. Anywhere from days before to the night before up until the minute of the flight, you can access the seating chart as the system uploads, as people are checking in, moving seats around, so you have access to the seating chart if you have the app. Now, always keep in mind that traveling by air can always change. Sometimes there's standby lists, so there might be a few people added on or, you know, people switching flights, but it's just something that can help you prepare a little bit beforehand. Tip number 3, pay extra attention at the boarding gate to any new announcements and any boarding rules. Before, as you might know, they used to board by your boarding group number, which was like 1 through 4. Usually meaning people in first class or towards the front of the plane would usually board first, but that's not being used right now. As of right now, your boarding group does not matter. In order to help with social distancing while people are getting on the plane, airlines have started boarding from the back of the aircraft first. That's why I say it's important to make sure you listen while you're sitting and waiting at the gate. I know I love to have my headphones on and be listening to music, but for right now, especially if it's your first time flying in a while, listen to all the announcements they're saying at the boarding gate, because in my experience so far, the agents will call a group of rows at a time, and section by section, group of row by group of row, they'll board the plane. The reason behind this is to eliminate the amount of buildup, people passing each other back and forth. It allows for people to have a little bit more space and control of who's getting on the plane and who's getting on behind them. And the same thing when you land, they usually ask that you remain seated even after they open the boarding door, and they'll start with like the first 5 rows and then 5 through 10, or you know, so on, so that it's less people coming into contact with each other. I think it makes a lot more sense and it's way more effective to board planes this way anyways, so I'm all for it. But just be aware of it because it's kind of new, and I've noticed that the few times I have had to travel, it's a couple of people, like, sometimes it's kind of confusing. Okay, my 4th tip is that flight attendants will give you an antibacterial wipe as you are boarding the aircraft. When you step onto the plane, they should be handing you an antibacterial wipe. This is great because you can use this to wipe down the seat, the tray table, the armrest. If there's a little screen or a little remote, wipe that down as well, and especially the seat buckle. A lot of people don't think about it, but everyone touches it. So make sure you wipe that down, and even when I'm sitting on a window seat, I'll even wipe down the little wall and the little ledge for to pull the shade up and down. Airlines have made a really big push upping their cleaning game. They are using all these new sprays and new techniques on how to clean planes, and they're also really trying to educate passengers on everything that they're actually doing to make it as safe as possible to travel by air. When I was recently reading up on it, I was pretty impressed. I mean, they use like hospital grade HEPA filters, which are supposed to be able to filter out like 99.7% of airborne particles. So, of course, it's all personal choice, personal preference, but it does make me feel better knowing that, you know, they're upping their game to clean these aircrafts. So that's really great. I just always like to do a little bit extra, especially for my, you know, personal seat. Tip number 5. Hand sanitizer. Temporarily, the TSA is allowing passengers to bring 12-ounce bottle of liquid hand sanitizer through security. It has to be screened separately, so read up on this. This is 1 ounce, okay? You can bring a 12-ounce bottle through security. That's great. Also, when bringing this, I always suggest if there's any like exceptions or rules for TSA, or you're kind of confused on something, take a screenshot so that when you go through security, if someone questions you about it, you have the specific like wording from the website of what the actual rule is, just to make things go a little bit more smoothly. Now, if you don't want to actually bring a liquid 12-ounce bottle of hand sanitizer through security, you could also just bring antibacterial wipes. They come in bulkier packages, but you could just take some out and put them in a Ziploc baggie and bring that through as well. Number 6. Pack snacks in a Ziploc baggie at home before you leave your house in order to relieve stress while you're traveling through the airport and throughout your flights. So, when I'm traveling, I always like to have snacks on me, but especially during these times, maybe you don't want to wait in line at a vendor at the airport, or you don't want to stand next to people in line at like a food court at the airport. Also, since the pandemic, the snacks, meals, and drinks offered on planes is changing literally all the time. So, if you just want to be extra prepared, have your own snacks in a little baggie. So what I always do is pack them in the Ziploc bag like so, okay? So when you're going through security, if it's normal security, not TSA pre-check, if it's regular security, you have to take all food out right now. So if you have it pre-packaged and all together in a bag, you just take this out, set it in that little gray bin, and you're good. Now, if you want to be extra safe, to be honest, I do not know how often they clean those gray bins. I am sure that it's more than they used to. I'm just saying, I don't know. So if you didn't trust that, you could actually double bag your snack baggie, put it in the gray bin, then when you take it out of the gray bin, slide it out, throw that one away, and then you have a nice, fresh, clean bag that you can place right back into your carry-on, okay? Zip it up. Good to go. So I've had to travel a couple of times, either working or since the furlough. Every single time, the food offered on the flights has been so different every single time. At the very beginning of this pandemic, obviously, they eliminated food altogether, and any open drinks or any, like, I think alcohol and like coffee and stuff, it was like no. Then I think I remember they moved to snack boxes, so like there was no like actual meals on the plane. They would just give you the packaged snack boxes. Another flight I was on, they actually handed you a little baggie. It had like a mini water bottle, pretzels, a cookie, and another hand sanitizer wipe in it. If you wanted a soda or a juice, they would just hand you the whole can. And then on my most recent travel, I actually got upgraded, so when I was sitting in first class, they actually served meals on trays, but it was completely covered in the foil, which normally the flight attendant would remove and prepare the meal and like set the tray. But it was just laid out very basic, but that way no one was touching your food or really anything on the tray. They just handed you the warm tray. Yeah, if you bring a little bag of snacks, this way you never know what's gonna happen. If you have the option to get upgraded, you don't know if you will or not. So I always think it's a good idea to just have even like some kind of snack bar or something with you so you don't get too hungry while you're traveling. It's just an idea. Personally, I always pack snacks with me like wherever I go because I don't like to get hangry. It also depends on how long you're going to be traveling for. But if you pack your little baggie, you don't have to be worrying about if you're getting served food or not. You just have a snack for whenever you're hungry. And you can save money instead of buying food at the airport. Oh, while we're on the note of food, always bring a water bottle. Bring an empty water bottle. This one has water in it. But either bring a reusable water bottle, which is what I usually do, or you can buy something like this when you get through security, or if you have one at home, you just make sure you drink all the water, empty it out. Just bring the clear plastic bottle through security with no liquids in it. Once you get into the airport and into the terminal, they usually have water fountains in multiple places next to the bathrooms usually, and just fill it up so that on the plane you don't have to wait for the flight attendants to come down. You always have water because it's really important to stay hydrated while you're flying. Tip number 7, pack extra masks. Okay, I will admit I have a weird fear of like dropping my mask on the ground and like not knowing what to do. Like, but you have to wear a mask when you're out in public. But what happens if it drops on the ground? Obviously you don't want to put that on your face. But really, in reality, you could just ask an employee of the airport or any airline, and I'm sure they will have extra masks to give you. But aside from that, the real reason to bring extra masks while you're traveling is to change them out. When I travel from my hometown to my base, it's over 20 hours of travel time. So it's like 2 days, basically. If you think about it, you're, covering your whole nose and mouth. There are natural oils on your face. You're sleeping, you're hot, you're cold, you're going through different parts of different airports, all of that. So I always, like every flight, or if it's like a really long flight, I like to change my mask out. I have a bag for clean masks, and then I have a bag to put the dirty ones in, because it's not a good idea to be touching the outside of the mask either until you can clean it again. So just make sure you pack a couple of extra, but you can always ask someone and they'll have extras. Tip number 8 is to clean your suitcase after your travel day. So I don't know if a lot of people think of this or not. I typically would try to incorporate this into my travel routine anyways, because I would use my bags pretty much every day, obviously as a flight attendant traveling back and forth from the airport and then whatever trip I would be on. So my tip is to wipe down the exterior of your suitcase after you're done traveling for the day. So I would get a rag and dish soap or laundry detergent or disinfectant or whatever you can get your hands on, and just, if you're using a rag, just make sure it's like a lightly damp one, because you don't want to get it, like, you want to give your suitcase time to air dry and everything. But I know we're all lazy sometimes, and if you don't even want to get into all of that, I would at least highly suggest that you wipe the handles and the zipper pulls, because if you think about it, you're touching a lot of things as you're traveling through the airport that you might not even notice, just like little remote screens, door handles, etc. So just wipe down the handle as soon as you get home so that it's fresh for the next time that you use it. Side note, guys, I see you. I know you put your suitcase on your bed sometimes. Don't do that. Don't do that, especially if you're not wiping down your whole suitcase. But oh my god, I swear, I've gone into it with my friends whom I love dearly, but like, think of the little roller wheels, and you don't want to bring these COVID streets like into your hotel bed or your home bed, you know what I mean? So hot tip, clean your suitcase and don't put it on your bed. I'm sorry. Tell me if you agree with me, please, please. I cannot be the only one, seriously. Number 9 is to change your clothes after you travel. Like I said, I typically travel for very long amounts of time, so I might even change one time in the middle just for comfort reasons. So I always just suggest changing your clothes after you travel anyways. Take a shower, you'll feel better, but especially in these times, if you think about it, you sit on a lot of different surfaces. There's airport seats, airplane seats, benches while you're waiting for your ride. Then if you take an Uber, there's that. You touch so many surfaces as you're traveling, and whether it's just a few hours from one place to another, or if it's like me, literally 2 days worth of traveling to get from my home to my base, I 100% showering and changing into a fresh pair of clothes after your travel day. Which relates to the next tip, which is number 10, which is packing an easy access set of clothes or pair of pajamas right at the top of your suitcase or in your carry-on bag, so it's super easy to find when you get to your hotel room. After the past 4 years that I have spent traveling for work, I cannot tell you how many things can happen in a day of travel when you think it's just going to be like one quick, easy flight, simple. Sometimes things just happen. You don't know what your day will bring you. You don't know how tired you will be when you finally make it to where you're staying that night. You'll be so happy when you make it to the end of your journey and your PJs are just sitting pretty right at the top, you know? So you don't have to go dig through your things, find your pieces, or if you land and you immediately need to go out or have a meeting or something, it will make your life so much easier just to have your fresh set right there. You already know where it is. Like I said, I travel for more than 20 hours to get from my hometown to my base, and the amount that I've had to do that, every single time that I land, I am beyond exhausted, and it just feels so good to know that past me helped out future me. Now especially, we're going through so much more stress just, you know, to get from one place to another. That's just the nicest thing you can do for yourself. I mean, this obviously isn't like a COVID travel tip, but I just think it really helps instead of having to move things around and go through your suitcase and think. It'll just be right there ready for you. Okay, so that's pretty much it. I just wanted to say, like, a last little bonus tip is just to acknowledge that going anywhere these days is a risk. So please take traveling, going out and about to the grocery store, any store, through an airport, wherever you're going, make sure that you understand the risk of going out and try to prepare as much as you possibly can to do it as safely as possible. There's a ton of resources like TSA website, CDC, and then there's travel.state.gov. I'll link them all below because they all have really good information on traveling right now during this pandemic, special airport rules, special airport exceptions, any COVID test rules, any travel and quarantine restrictions, and just any other new information that would be useful to be aware of. So just make sure you do as much research as you possibly can so that you can be a responsible traveler. If you're like me, it helps a lot to prepare mentally and do your research ahead of time so that when you get there, you kind of have a smoother experience knowing that you've prepared as much as you possibly can. When it comes down to it, we are all responsible for our own selves and the impact that we make upon others when we're traveling. And sometimes it's hard to tell what your travel experience is going to be like, especially as air travel starts to gain traction again. For example, some of the flights that I've been on have been totally empty, and I have had whole sections of the plane to myself and felt really safe and socially distanced. But other flights within that same travel segment, like when I have to take 3 flights, one of the flights was basically packed and I had people sitting right next to me. Thankfully, everyone that I've been near on a plane has followed the rules. They've kept their masks on, you know, taken as many precautions as they could. So I'm thankful for that. But you just really never know. So just acknowledge that it is a risk, do as much research as you can, and wear a mask. So that's all I got. Now that you have these tips and things to keep in mind, let me know your thoughts on travel this year in the comments. I'm curious to see if you have traveled already or if you're planning on going somewhere. Are you open to flying again soon, or are you totally against it? And if and when things get normal again, what is the first place you want to go to? Home to see family? Vacation? What is the first place you would book a flight to if you could go anywhere? I really hope it's safe pandemic wise for us to travel again soon. Thank you so much for watching, and if you feel a little bit more prepared for when you do choose to travel again, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more travel tips, flight attendant, and Guam life. Yeah, that's all I got. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye! Welcome to my channel.
Alright, start it and see.
Today I have 10 tips for you on how to travel in 2021 from the flight attendant of a perspective. I'm so hard.
Okay.